this video I am going to use a bat, and I'm doing that for a reason. I actually don't have bat pins on this wheel head, so I just took a hunk of clay and smashed it down on the wheel head and then smashed the bat down really well in the clay. And this works well for holding a bat in place if you don't have bat pins. So I'm working with closer to 2 pounds of clay this time, and you're going to see my bat is not centered. So the bat will look a little funky as I am centering, but so long as my clay is centered, then I will not have issues. So again, I'm pushing down and pushing in equal pressure. I don't keep my fist directly on top of that form because I don't want to create like that mushroom effect. I do like to cone even the small forms. Kind of curve it back over, push it down. It allows it to expand back into its gumdrop shape. And there's not really a set number of times you need to cone. I just think it makes the clay a little bit more uniform. And there are times when I don't cone at all. And check my bat, make sure it's stuck. Kind of felt like it was moving a little bit. Keep those elbows locked into either your inner thigh or your hip bone, the core of your body, because your core is stronger than the clay. And if you are an immovable force, then the clay has to change its shape and position based on you being an immovable force. And that is truly what makes the clay center. Check your depth, 1/4 to 1/2 inch, depending on the foot you want to trim. I like to keep the bottoms of my pots a little bit on the thicker side because I like to trim a deep foot. I'm not opening this form very wide. I'm going to make like a little bowl vase shape, and what I'm going to be doing with this form is actually showing you a decorative application for slip trailing. I use a slip trail bottle, but you want to come back and compress your rim in between your throws, push a little harder with your hand on the outside, kind of keep the form tall and narrow, which you'll do for most shapes that you make. Not all of them, but most of them. Now that I'm just making a traditional form, I want my walls to be the same thickness from the bottom to the top. So I'm looking for that 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit thinner, for a nice, clean, lightweight piece. Kind of digging into the bottom, pulling that clay up. That tends to be our trouble areas. And now I'm actually starting to shape while I'm pulling. So I'm pushing with my hand on the inside, slowly moving up the form to kind of create that belly. Thin the walls a little bit more while I'm doing it. And then I can slowly push the limits of that form. So it's just 1 or 2 fingers that are actually touching the wall on the inside. And then I can play around with different things I might want to do for the top of the piece. You use a wooden rib tool, you can get a pretty straight edge. Maybe make that a little bit more narrow at the top. Go in and just make it a little bit wider each time. You don't want to stretch it completely in your first shaping. You want to kind of push it a little bit each more every time you go to shape the bottom. I'm going to pull the water out of the pot. Cut the rim. I did a little uneven while I was working on it. I'm going to round that right back out. Remember, we don't want flat rims. And I'm kind of flaring it because I think that matches the shape a little better. Kind of folding that lip back. And balances out the form a little more. Cut off that extra there with my modeling knife. Now, usually when I do this slip decorative method that you're going to see shortly, I will actually get my pot leather hard, trim the foot, and then put it back on the wheel and do the slip application. This means the pot is sturdy enough to withstand the force I have to put on it when I actually tap the bat, which you're going to see in a couple minutes. I'm choosing to do this while the clay is still really soft for demonstration purposes. So you will see my shape actually collapses a little bit, which I'm not mad about at the end actually. I like the shape of it. But if you don't want this to happen to you, you would slip trail and then tap the pot after you've trimmed it and after it's leather hard. So I'm using the slip trail bottle and I'm adding layers of thick slip. This is a slip that I've mixed to a nice even consistency, and I want to add a lot of layers. I'm keeping it just a little bit below the rim, so the rim of the pot is still nice and soft. And I just want it on the top half of the piece. So I'm going to eventually create this drippy effect. And my application doesn't have to be perfect. I just want thick layers. So now I will pry the bat off of the wheel, and you're going to see why I wanted a bat. And I'm going to start to tap the pot, which you'll notice that the pot does start to sag a little bit from that pressure, which is why I usually do this after the pot's been trimmed and it's leather hard. So a couple of times I'll go in and I'll adjust it. You can see that slip is starting to kind of create these layers, this kind of cascading look, which can be really fun when you glaze it. But you definitely either want to at least heat gun the piece for a while or trim that up so it's truly leather hard before you do this slip application. But again, I'm not actually upset with the shape.